the board, July 28, 29, 2021 board meeting. My name is Song Oh, president of the board. As I mentioned yesterday, the board is a consumer protection agency charged with administering and enforcing pharmacy law, where protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted. The protection of the public shall be paramount. Also, as mentioned yesterday, this meeting is being conducted consistent with the provisions of Governor Gavin Newsom's Executive Order N-8-21. Participants watching the webcast will only be able to observe the meeting. Anyone interested in participating in the meeting must join the WebEx meeting. Information and instructions are posted on our website. As indicated on the agenda, following the petition hearing today, the board will convene in closed session after deliberating on all the open session items except adjournment. Due to technological limitations, adjournment will not be broadcast. Adjournment will immediately follow closed session, and there will be no other items of business discussed. As with our meeting yesterday, I will again announce when we are accepting public comment. I have advised the meeting moderator to allow 2 minutes to each individual providing comments on a particular agenda item. This is important to ensure that the board has time to consider comments on the agenda and complete its business. And before we get started, I would like to ask staff moderating the meeting to provide general instructions. Moderator?
Thank you, President O. For today's public comment, we will be utilizing the Q&A feature in WebEx. When public comment is called for, I will turn on the Q&A feature and display the following instructions for your use. To request public comment, you'll want to locate the Q&A icon on your screen, which looks like a question mark inside of a square. When you click on that, it should open a text box. And in that text box, you can simply type the word comment and send that to our panelists. We will be taking comments in the order that they are received. When I call your name to make your public comment, I will let you know that you can unmute your microphone. This is a new feature in WebEx. When I do that, you should receive a pop-up window on your end that displays a box that allows you to unmute yourself. If you simply click the Unmute Me button, that should open your microphone. And once you begin speaking, then the time will begin. As President O stated, each commenter will have a 2-minute time limit. I will be providing a 10-second reminder when your time is about to expire. And once your time is expired, I will mute your microphone and move to the next commenter. If we do get lots of comments, it could take a few minutes to get through them all, so I ask you to please be patient and do not submit more than one request. For those of you new to this new version of WebEx, you will see that we do have closed captioning now. If you do not want to see the closed captioning on your screen, you do have the option of disabling that by clicking on the closed captioning icon, which typically appears in the bottom left corner of your screen. That will enable you to turn off the visual or turn it back on. You can also view the captioning by commenter, and you can access that by hovering over the little robot icon in the corner of your screen and choosing View Captions and Highlights. That window should appear at the bottom of your participant panel. And with that, I will turn it back over to President O.
Thank you, moderator. Members, I will now take a roll call to establish a quorum. Maria Serpa? Maria?
I'm here, sorry.
Thank you, Maria. No worries. Jig Patel?
Good morning.
Good morning, Jig. Cheryl Butler?
Morning.
Good morning, Cheryl. Jose de la Paz?
Here, present.
Good morning, Jose. Shirley Kim? Good morning, Shirley. Ricardo Sanchez?
I'm here.
Hi, Ricardo. Good morning. Nicole Thibault? Nicole?
And now she was redoing her connection.
Oh, okay. Nicole? We'll go back to Nicole. Jason Wise? I'm sorry, Debbie Veal?
I'm here.
Hi, Debbie. Jason Wise?
I'm here, Song.
Hi, Jason. Good morning. Nicole?
Here, sorry.
Hi, Nicole. Thank you. No worries. And I am here, so the quorum is established. Also, a reminder, it seems like if there is a connection issue like it was yesterday, if the members of the public could please let us know if you cannot hear certain members, please let us know and we will try to see what we can do. So thank you for your patience and always thank you for participating. We're moving on to agenda item 15, adoption of board approved regulation related to reporting drug losses. Members, our first order of business for the day is consideration of comments received in response to the proposed amendments to Title 16 California Code of Regulations, Section 1715.6, related to reporting drug losses. As part of the January 2020 meeting, the board approved the proposed regulation text. The intent of the proposed amendments was to further define when drug losses must be reported and to increase clarity for the regulated public. Included in the meeting materials are several items for our review. First, the proposed text has notice for the 45-day comment period. 2, staff prepared summary comments and recommendations. And lastly, 3, the comments received by stakeholders. I trust you all have the opportunity to review the material. Before I entertain a motion, I actually would like to open up the discussion for each of the members. To facilitate, I will take a roll call and ask each members of their comments, including comments on the staff's recommendation. After all members have had an opportunity to provide comments, then we will seek a motion. So I am going to start with Maria Serpa. Any comments, Maria?
Down here with my mouse. Thank you for the opportunity to speak first. This is a very complex issue, even though it's only a half page in regulatory language. That was a result of extensive conversations with public in the enforcement committee and in board meetings in the past, trying to discuss how to, I'm trying to think how to word this, how to word this in a succinct but yet detailed manner such that there's no room for interpretation. Current regulations, as I understand it, require pharmacies to report the loss of a single product, a single dose, a single pill, a single IV product. And that is onerous not only for the pharmacy, but also for the board staff. And so it was determined at having some sort of aggregate would be helpful, but still within safe limits so that you could look for patterns and trends. And so this was the language that was proposed. And so I move that we move forward with regulatory considerations.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for your comments. Jake?
I agree with Maria. I mean, this is going to take away a little bit from one dose missing, etc., for tablets. So I agree with the changes.
Thank you, Jake. Cheryl?
I support Maria's position on this.
Thank you, Cheryl. Jose, any comments?
No comments or questions from my end.
Thank you, Jose. Shirley, any comments?
Echo Maria's comments.
Thank you, Shirley. Ricardo, any comments?
No, just support.
Thank you, Ricardo. Nicole, any comments?
Yes, I'm very much in support of this. The requirement to submit for a single missing tablet was very onerous, and it would happen sometimes because some drug manufacturers just weigh their pills and they don't count them. So there's certain drug manufacturers that we had to stop ordering because it caused so many problems with this. So this is very, very helpful.
Yeah, totally seen that same as well, Nicole. Thank you. Debbie?
No comment, agree with Maria.
Thank you, Debbie. And Jason?
President.
Thank you, Jason. And go ahead.
Song, I was just going to say, do we need a second to Maria's motion?
Oh, I didn't take that as a motion yet.
Okay.
I will in a little bit. I just wanted to have some clarifying questions for me so that there's no confusion after I read this text. So since it's a preceding 1 year, so I just wanted to make sure that I understand this correctly. So if there is a aggregate of a drug, meaning it's a drug that is not a specific NDC but a drug, like for example, let's say a Percocet 10-325, and that if that aggregate of that drug is greater, equal, or greater than 99, since it's a tablet form, within a preceding year. So for example, if the loss of one pill was discovered on January 1st, 2020, and another loss of 98 tablets was discovered on January 2 of 2021, then the reporting is not required. But if it was discovered on January 1, 2021, of 98 tablets lost, then the reporting would be required. Is that my understanding correctly for either if there's any inspectors or our counsel or Anne?
This is Maria. I can tell you what the intent was from the enforcement committee and the previous board, and then maybe Anne or our legal counsel could say if that's what is shown in the language. But the intent was that you're looking at a rolling year, such that if you lost 90 on December 30th and 10 in January, that would still be reportable because it's within the rolling 1 year. They're not calendar years. And then you're correct that we had lots of discussion about NDC because that's an issue with a lot of large volume pharmacies. And the issue is not 99 per each NDC, but 99 for each product. So multiple NDCs. And so, you can't get away with, I lost 90 and now I'm not going to stock that NDC anymore. I'm going to switch to another NDC. So now I start back at 0. That's not correct. So it's the product, not the NDC. So that's my understanding from the enforcement committee. But Anne or Eileen may have comments on the regulatory language if that is what the language states.
I'm actually going to ask Sheila if she can respond to the legal question.
And I'm sorry.
Yes, sorry. Sheila is counsel that is handling regulations for the board.
And I'm sorry for technical question. I just wanted to make sure that when we're reading a regulation that it's actually understandable for the regular practitioners so that they can follow along. So just wanted to confirm.
No, thank you very much. This is Sheila Tatayan, and I am an attorney in the legal division of the Department of Consumer Affairs. And as you know, we have a regulatory unit. So pharmacy is one of my assigned boards. So you heard me yesterday and probably at other meetings. So I think your question is an excellent question, though, because if the intent is the rolling year and you could not readily understand that, that's why it's an excellent question. Because one of the tests for regulatory and statutory interpretation is, whether minds could differ, reasonable minds could differ as to the interpretation. So I think it's a, again, it's not a very long regulation, but it's important and it's technical. And so if the board feels that this may not be so clear to the practitioners, let me know, because of the language actually reads on or after the same day of the previous year. And your question is a good question because it's not clear. I'm looking at this now that it's calendar. It should be on or after the same day of the previous calendar year, because that would make it the rolling year.
Well, this is Maria. Just to confirm, Sheila, that's why we put the words on or after the same day of the previous year, so that it was not calendar year.
Right.
It was a rolling year. And that may not be the correct language to imply that, but that's was our attempt.
Right, and see, it's tricky because if you add the word calendar year, then somebody might, just think in their minds, oh, we're talking about a calendar year, where you're saying it's just the previous year. And I apologize because I wasn't here during the previous discussions.
Thank you, Sheila. No, actually, that clarifies. I am satisfied with the language. I just wanted to make sure that, we can kind of understand what the language, what I would suggest though is that, you know, I know that we seem to throw FAQs around for any of these things, but if Anne is agreeable that we could develop a very short FAQ on this regulation so that we can explain in a practical term and have an example so that we can kind of convey what we are trying to look for in this regulation language, if that's agreeable to you, Anne.
Sung, this is Maria. How would I would suggest maybe an article in the script might be more amenable and probably read by a larger number of people.
Okay, that would work as well, as long as it's easily, the members can easily find it on the website. Because script, the challenge with script is you actually have to figure out what issue it is. I mean, the search function on our board website is excellent, but still not everybody's, you know, aware of it. So that's my only little bit of pause with putting it on just on the script. But
FAQs is on the board website, correct?
Right. Yeah, it's a little bit easier to find FAQs because it's listed.
Let's see it on the website.
But I mean, those I think have to be decided today. So I think those don't need to be part of the regulatory language. So I think let's just move to the at least regulatory language part so that we don't delay this regulation language since it's been already quite long, and I think everybody is on the same page of agreeable to moving on. So let's seek for some motion and second, and then we'll go for vote and public comment. Maria, do you want to make a motion officially?
I'll repeat what I said before. I move that we move ahead. Well, what's the standard boilerplate language?
It's on the screen.
Oh, I'll just read
Maria,
exactly
look,
what's on the screen.
Maria, it's on the screen.
Thank you. I see that now. Thank you. Accept the board staff recommendation for comment responses and adopt the regulatory language as noticed for the 45-day comment period. Additionally, delegate to the executive officer the authority to make technical or non-substantive changes that may be required by the control agencies to complete the rulemaking file. That is my motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jig. Jig seconds, Maria motions, and thank you. And we are, any other member comments before I open up for public comment?
Hi, Sung, this is Shirley.
Oh, go ahead.
My only comment is that if we do add it to the FAQ, it might be helpful to have an illustration or example to illustrate the ambiguity here and to clarify it.
Sounds good. Thank you. Absolutely. And I believe that can be done. Okay, perfect. So moderator, please open the line for public comment.
Open the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen, type comment into the text field, and submit that to our panelists. Our first comment comes from Stephen Gray. Steve, you may open your line.
I appreciate how much work has been done on this. It is a very important regulation change that will alleviate a long-standing problem that has been mentioned before, that problem being the requirement to report the loss of a single dosage unit of any controlled substance. However, I believe this still has substantial ambiguity. If you look at subsection A1, it says any loss of a controlled substance, and then for some reason, the words including there were crossed out. I don't quite remember what that used to say, but including there doesn't seem to have any object. Was it including their generic equivalents? Was it including other dosage forms with the same controlled substance? There are many ways to interpret any loss of a controlled substance. So not only would, apparently what you intend is that at least it's the generic equivalents, but also from the question asked by Sung Ho, it could be any other controlled substance that contain the same, any other product that contained the same controlled substance. So if a product contains codeine and you lost some Tylenol with codeine number 3, and you also lost some Tylenol with codeine number 4, they contain the same controlled substance. Does that mean that they both, even though they're not generic equivalents, does that mean that they count towards the aggregate of 99 dosage units? So I think besides the issue of the same day of the previous year, which is to me less confusing than this one, what do you mean by a controlled substance? And it's not clear at all. Thank you.
Steve.
And our next comment comes from Keith Yoshizuka. Keith, you may open your line.
Yoshizuka. Keith Yoshizuka, the California Society of Health System Pharmacists. This is such an important issue, and it affects so many pharmacies. As to the tool of communication, I don't think putting it in the newsletter is exclusive to having a list of frequently asked questions. I would say highly recommend that you employ both strategies to maximize the information and education of the pharmacists out there that are going to be affected. Thank you.
And seeing no further requests for comment, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please. Thank you, moderator. Members, having received public comment, we're going to take a roll call vote. Maria? Thank you, Maria. Jig? Jig votes yes. Maria votes yes. Cheryl Butler?
Yes.
Cheryl votes yes. Jose?
Yes.
Jose votes yes. Shirley?
Yes.
Thank you, Shirley. Ricardo? Thank you, Ricardo. Nicole? Thank you, Nicole. Debbie? Thank you, Debbie. Jason?
Yes.
Thank you, Jason. And I vote yes, the motion passes. Moving on, so we are now going into our petition hearing. So agenda item 16, petitions for reinstatement of licensure, early termination, or other modification of penalty. I believe we should take a 10-minute break just so that we have all our petitioners set up as well as their attorneys and judge. Judge Jessica Wall, are you here, Judge?
We'll be promoting everybody that we need.
All right. Okay, everybody, we are going to take a 10-minute break. We will be back at 9:41. We'll see you back with the video on, please. See you guys. Back, and we are turning on the video, everybody. So, everybody, if you can turn on your video.
But once we are on, I'm okay.
Mr. Odriala, we can hear you, so we will get to you when we are ready to speak. I'm going to take a roll call for making sure everybody's back. Let's start with Maria Serpa.
Here.
Thank you, Maria. Jig? Hi, Jig. Thank you. Cheryl Butler? Cheryl, are you back?
Solomon Oduyale is here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Odiale. Jose, are you here? Thank you, Jose. Shirley? Thank you, Shirley. Ricardo? Thank you, Ricardo. Nicole?
I'm here.
Thank you, Nicole. Debbie?
I'm here.
Thank you, Debbie. Jason?
I'm here.
Thank you, Jason. And I'm here. I'm going to go back to Cheryl. Cheryl, are you back? I see that she is she was on attendee list for some reason, but yeah, she is on attendee
She dropped off
moderator.
She dropped off because she wanted to switch
Yeah.
to the other device.
Okay, is the lighting okay?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
And Patricia Oduali, until we're, I'm going to keep you muted, yes, until we're ready to begin. And I'm looking for, oh, there she is. I apologize, my attendee list was not refreshing. Member Butler, I have promoted you back into our attendee list. Or I mean, our participant list. If we can activate your camera, please, and check your microphone.
Yes, I couldn't say anything. I mean, I kept trying to hit mute and nothing was happening. So let's see, I can start the video now on my iPad. Can you see me?
Not yet.
Almost there.
Okay, let's see. Start video. Can you see me now?
Yes.
I can't see anybody else. I can't see anybody.
And Jason, do we see you on the video? I think Jason
Activated his video yet. There it goes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. I think everybody is on. Now I'm going to turn the meeting over to Judge Jessica Wall. Your Honor, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to start by getting the names and titles of the board members. So I'll go through starting with the president. Do you prefer Dr. O or President O?
Either is fine with you, Your Honor. Whatever is easy for you. Thank you.
And then, is it Dr. Sherpa? Serpa, sorry.
Serpa.
Okay. Dr. Patel?
Mr. Patel.
Mr. Okay. All right. Dr. Butler?
This is Butler, Lavonta Butler, but I'm still having a problem. I can't see anybody. So I'm going to have to go off of this iPad and get back on my computer.
It might be, Cheryl, just the way you have the layout set up.
And when I was on my computer, a video wouldn't even open. It's like she had the video shut off. So I'm going to get back on my computer and sign off of this because I can't.
Cheryl, I still show you're connected by your computer.
Well, then I'm going to sign off of this iPad because I cannot see anyone.
Okay.
Cheryl, go ahead. We apologize, Judge. We're going to have just a little bit of about 3 to 5 minutes until Cheryl signs back out and signs back in. Sorry for the delay.
No problem. Would it be acceptable if I continued to go through my list and just get people's titles?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe that's okay as long as we have quorum. Yes.
Okay. So is it Mr. De La Paz?
That's correct, Judge.
Thank you. Ms. Kim? Okay. Mr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Okay. And is it Dr. Taibo? Could you help me pronounce your last name, please?
No problem. It's Tebow.
Tebow. Okay.
Thanks, Your Honor.
And do you prefer doctor?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Is it Dr. Veal? Is that the correct pronunciation?
Veal's the correct pronunciation, but I'm Mrs. Veal.
Mrs. Okay. Got it. And Mr. Is it Wise or Weiss? Weiss. Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we are waiting for Dr. Butler to return, but we do have a quorum. So how would the board like to proceed in terms of order of cases today? President O?
It really would be up to you and whatever that works for our petitioners as well. So we don't have any set orders that we have to follow.
Okay.
Excuse me, I see myself. You guys don't see me?
We can see you, Cheryl.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we do have Dr. Butler back?
Yes.
Great. And would the board like to deliberate after each case or at the end of the cases?
I believe we will do it at the end of the case.
At the end of all four, I have four on my list.
Oh,
Is
no,
that
no,
correct?
no. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we would go to closed session at the end of all four. After whole four.
Okay. And do I have all of the petitioners present? Petitioners and their counsel, I should say.
Showing currently they are all connected to the meeting.
Okay. So I'd like to explain a couple things to the petitioners and their counsel before we begin.
We have 5 petitioners.
Okay.
Debbie, one of them is 2 combo, so it's 4, but the one case is 2 petitions,
Okay.
2 cases.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing to get resolved ahead of time. I see we have Ms. Jarvis present for the Attorney General's office. Thank you. So for the petitioners, I want to just help them understand that this proceeding is concerned with rehabilitation since any licensed discipline. So it is not concerned with relitigating any of the elements involved in that discipline. Those have already been decided. Ms. Jarvis will present the orientation first in each case. She'll describe the history and orient the board members. So she will present your petition package. I will mark it. I will ask if you have any objections, and then it will be admitted into evidence. If there's any more documents or anyone needs any more documents, please let me know before we begin the hearing. After Ms. Jarvis has given an orientation, each petitioner will have an opportunity to make their presentation. Remember that the board members have had an opportunity to read your petition package, so there's no need to repeat anything in it. I will swear you in so that the testimony you give can be considered as evidence. After you're done, the board members and Ms. Jarvis will have an opportunity to question you. Is there anything else before we begin today? President O?
No other. Thank you, Your Honor, and go ahead.
Okay, so we will start with Mr. Odiali. Okay. So
Present.
let's go on the record. We are here today to review 3 petitions for modification and 1 petition for reinstatement. These matters are being heard before the California State Board of Pharmacy, Department of Consumer Affairs. Will all members of the board please identify themselves for the record? President O, please start. I can go through the list if that would be easier. So I have present for the Board of Pharmacy, Dr. O, President of the Board, Dr. Serpa, Vice President of the Board, Mr. Patel, Treasurer, Dr. Butler, Mr. De La Paz, Ms. Kim, Mr. Sanchez, Dr. Tebow, Mrs. Veal, and Mr. Weiss. There is a quorum of the board present. My name is Jessica Wall. I am an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I've been assigned to preside over this matter. The first matter we will hear today is the petition for reinstatement filed by Alugbenga Solomon Odiali, agency case number 4724 OAH case number 2021060394.1. May I please take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General?
My name is Christina Jarvis. I am a Deputy Attorney General appearing here on behalf of the Attorney General for the people of the state of California. My role here is not adversarial, but it is intended to protect the public interest.
Thank you, Ms. Jarvis. Petitioner Odiale is represented by Attorney Ronald Marks. Mr. Marks, will you please put your appearance on the record?
Good morning, Your Honor. Ronald Marks, appearing on behalf of Solomon Odiale.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Marks. So before we begin, I would like to swear Mr. Odiale in. So I do not see him on the camera.
I'm here.
Oh, you are. Okay. Mr. Odiale,
I
will you
think
please raise your
I'm
right
to your
hand?
right.
Thank you. Will you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much, Mr. Odiale. So I want to next move to having Ms. Jarvis present the petition summary.
Thank you, Your Honor. This matter has a significant procedural history, which I will try to get through quickly. If the board needs clarification on dates, you can please just ask me once the floor is open for questions. I also do understand that the board heard this petition last month. However, there were a few things left out, and that record has been completely vacated. And so I do apologize, but I must lay the entire record today, even if you guys do remember some of this. Petitioner was initially issued a pharmacist license in 1989 and had no issue until 2006. In 2006, an accusation was filed and petitioner proceeded to an administrative hearing, after which he was placed on probation for 3 years. He successfully completed probation and his license was restored. The issues in that case included incredibly sloppy record keeping and mishandling of dangerous drugs and controlled substances. In 2010, shortly after completing probation, petitioner applied for a pharmacy permit for a pharmacy that he intended to own and to operate as the pharmacist in charge, the PIC. The board denied that application based on the prior discipline. Petitioner appealed and in 2011 entered into a stipulated settlement with the board to be issued a probationary pharmacy license for 35 months. The pharmacy opened for business in April of 2012. In January and March of 2013, board inspectors conducted inspections at the pharmacy and found multiple violations of pharmacy law. An accusation and petition to revoke probation was filed in July of 2013, with a first amended version filed in July of 2014. In December of 2014 and March of 2015, this matter proceeded to multi-days of hearing. The proposed decision of the ALJ, which the board adopted, was to revoke petitioner's license, but to allow the pharmacy to continue on probation for an additional 4 years. Both sides petitioned for reconsideration. Reconsideration was granted as to the pharmacy license, but not as to petitioner's license, which was therefore revoked. Before the board exercised reconsideration as to the pharmacy license, petitioner filed a writ in Superior Court. The Superior Court issued a decision rendering an opinion on some violations and remanding the matter to the board for further consideration based on the court's opinion. The board then set aside its prior decision and issued a final decision effective February 6, 2017, which revoked petitioner's license and continued the probation for the pharmacy license for an additional 4 years. The causes for discipline in the final decision were that petitioner engaged in unprofessional conduct as follows. Petitioner failed to maintain adequate records of the acquisition and disposition of controlled substances, specifically Norco-10s. Petitioner improperly deviated from the requirement of 5 prescriptions to 5 different patients without documentation of the consent of the prescriber or a rewritten prescription. Improperly deviated from the prescription requirements. I apologize. Petitioner dispensed prescriptions for controlled substances that were not written on a controlled substances prescription form. Petitioner dispensed controlled substances, which were written on pre-printed multiple check-off prescription blanks. Petitioner failed to document or obtain the name of the agent of the prescriber who transmitted oral prescriptions on multiple occasions. Petitioner provided altered documents to the board's inspector that falsely represented the existence of the state facts. Petitioner failed to exercise or implement his best professional judgment for all of the violations already discussed. Now, for the remaining violations, petitioner was working in a hospital. So all of those violations were in a community pharmacy, but the next violations that I will discuss were in a hospital. And in that hospital, petitioner committed gross negligence when he extended the expiration date of compounded oxytocin beyond the manufacturer's beyond use date by manually relabeling the product. There is a second violation in here as well, in that the relabeling of the compounded oxytocin constituted the making of a document that falsely represented the state of facts. In the end, there were 10 causes for discipline asserted in the accusation that were dismissed. One was stricken by the Deputy Attorney General at hearing, and 9 causes for discipline were proven against petitioner. Now, with his petition for reinstatement, petitioner has provided a personal statement wherein he states that he has learned his lessons about these violations and in fact learned them a long time ago and has always been willing to accept a discipline of probation. He believes that the problems that he had came from trying to own and manage the community pharmacy while also working full-time at a hospital pharmacy. Petitioner provided 48 hours of continuing education taken from November 7th, 2018 through November 13th, 2020, 26 letters of recommendation for the underlying matter, so all dated approximately 2014 or earlier, 11 dated 2020 or newer, so specific to this petition. One was undated, but it does reference that petitioner's license was revoked and he is seeking reinstatement. So I believe that it's fair to say that that letter is from 2020 or more recent. 7 of the 11 letters were able to be verified, and one of those letters was by a licensee. Only one of the licensee letters was able to be verified. Now, all of the authors of these letters that were able to be verified stated that petitioner is a great guy, he's competent, giving, truthful, honest, a good citizen, and has learned his lesson. All of the letters say very much the same. At this time, Your Honor, I'd like to move Exhibit 1, which consists of all the documents described above as the petition packet and includes the notice of hearing and the memorandum setting forth the status of this proceeding.
Thank you, Ms. Jarvis. Mr. Marks, do you have any objection to Exhibit 1?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, Exhibit 1 is admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. And then Exhibit 2, I would like to have admitted just as the underlying decision and order setting forth the process that I've just described.
Mr. Marks, do you have any objections to Exhibit 2?
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you. Exhibit 2 is admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Then at this time, it is now the petitioner's opportunity to address the board.
Thank you, Ms. Jarvis. So, Mr. Marks, if you'd like to begin.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the board and Ms. Jarvis. Mr. Odiale, who goes by Saul, and I appreciate the opportunity to present the petition to the board this morning. In summary, as mentioned by Ms. Jarvis, Mr. Odiale's license was revoked in August 10th, 2015. So he was eligible to petition for reinstatement after 3 years. And he submitted his petition for reinstatement on February 18th, 2020, which was about a year and a half ago. I sincerely believe that you will find from Saul's testimony and letters submitted on his behalf, each of which have now been verified, that Saul has shown rehabilitation. He's sincerely learned from his mistakes, and then he will be an asset to the profession upon reinstatement. I've known Saul for about 18 years. I respect and trust him. I've acquired knowledge of board decisions, having been involved in disciplinary matters for 50 years on both sides and have represented a couple hundred pharmacists. I'm confident that you will find from the evidence that Saul satisfies the requirements for reinstatement. He is a pillar of society, as noted in the letters, and his reinstatement will result in no risk to the public. Therefore, we ask the board to determine that reinstatement on probation with necessary terms and conditions as permitted by Business and Professions Code, Section 4309F, will satisfy the board's mandate of public protection. If acceptable at this time, I'd like to call Mr. Odiale.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Odiale, I remind you that you are under oath. Thank you. You may begin, Mr. Marks.
Am I allowed to speak now?
Yes, Mr. Marks will ask you some questions.
Am I allowed to speak? Okay.
Okay. Saul, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. When did you get your license as a pharmacist, Saul?
I believe in 1989, as stated.
And where did you get your
in
pharmacy?
California.
Where did you get your pharmacist
Beg your
degree?
pardon?
Where did you get your pharmacist degree?
North Dakota State University, Fargo, North Dakota.
Okay. And can you tell the board what pharmacist positions you've held?
I have held several positions. I started as a pharmacist intern, and I was a volunteer pharmacy intern. Prior to that, I did all my clinicals at the VA hospital in Fargo, North Dakota, for the purpose of clinical rotations to complete my degree, and went to Rockford, Illinois, and served as a volunteer pharmacist, registered volunteer pharmacist, to get my credentials. We need to meet 9 months of internship, and I did that voluntarily at Swedish American Hospital because they said they don't have funds to pay me, so I volunteered to do my internship voluntarily. And after that, I went to work for a drug company called it's already closed. That was in 1980 in Rockford, in Peoria, Illinois. From there I was the pharmacist manager. I was PIC, and I did do part-time work during the weekend and when I'm available at Methodist Hospital in Peoria, Illinois. I was paid for that. I served 3 years as a PIC, and then I moved to Yuma, Arizona in 1985 at the Yuma Regional Medical Center Hospital because they didn't have a pharmacist. So I was recruited. I was the only pharmacist there for a long time, and I have some challenges, and I asked the administration to employ more pharmacists and to also let us buy a lot of reference materials to aid us in making professional judgment and references. I had a 3-year contract there. And when that 3-year contract expired in 1989, I transferred my license by taking the NAPLEX for the pharmacy board in California, because California does not allow reciprocity at the time. And I started working at Calexico Hospital and at Rite Aid, which was then called Thrifty Pharmacy. And later on changed to Payless, and at this time it's called Rite Aid. I left Rite Aid on about 2000 as a PIC from 1989, and then I went to work in Blight, California. I believe it was called Palo Verde Hospital, Blight, California. And I stayed there 3 years till 2006, at which time, believe maybe, no, point of correction, 2003. And then I went to work for the California Department of Corrections in Sealy, California. And then the same time on weekends, I did work for Brawley Pioneer Memorial Hospital in California. Then I think that position ended in around 2011 or 12, I don't recall. And I opened the pharmacy, as mentioned, going through some process. I was ultimately granted the permission to open the pharmacy. I forgot to mention that I really appreciate the board to give me the opportunity to be heard. And thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, members of the board. And thank you for your representation, Mr. Max. It's been quite a lengthy time to be on probation, and I have done a lot of studies, read a lot of journals, done a lot of continuing education beyond the hours required. I do read journals such as Drug Topics, subscribe to a website where I take my monthly continuing education classes, and sometimes I do take extra ones that are not even on the list. I read pharmacy law book that is updated yearly, and I also read Dr. Wiseman's California State University School of Pharmacy book. I also read the scripts from time to time. Now it's available on the computer. Before it was sent out by mail. I do reach out to community pharmacists to see what is new on the books, and I go to various pharmacies to see OTC versions of things and modifications of things. I have a lot of pharmacist friends that tell me the trends, and I monitor the trends through reading all the things going on. I am a very good pharmacist. I pose no threats, no public threats to anyone. I've done a lot of volunteer work for this community, where I serve, and I've been in dangerous places where nobody wants to work, such as the prison, and they have a lot of shortages throughout the prison system. They have actually invited me, if I get my license back, they will grant me the opportunity to serve. Dedicate my whole professional career as a pharmacist. Unfortunately, I must admit I work long hours like most pharmacists do. I've learned my errors, and I have rehabilitated myself by going to all the continuing education procedures, and I believe I meet that qualification. Lessons learned, and I appeal or implore the board for human consideration to grant me my license back, and I promise I will not let the board down. I will limit my hours of practice, unlike before, especially now that I'm a little bit older. I wouldn't want to work in two places at the same time. I will appreciate the consideration for reinstatement. I have done a lot of civic work, humanitarian work in this community. I provide scholarship to people that are otherwise not able to finish secondary school, that were kicked out, maybe because of drugs or whatever, and they send them to a secondary school where those little kids can continue with modification. I provide a lot of water to the football games. Each time they have a home game, I provide all the waters, because they said the state cut the funding, so the kids can have a good home football game. I also support the Little League to play baseball, and buy them jerseys. And I do a lot of community outreach. I support the church, and contribute to the Church of Seventh-day Adventists, and I even help them build a high school in Nigeria, in Africa, in my hometown of Elisha, and it is now called Babcock University. And in this community here, there are a lot of homelessness, and I provide a lot of low-income housing to a lot of people, almost to the point of between 200 and 250 residents that live. Some of them, as of now, due to COVID, were not able to meet their rent, and nobody has been kicked out, and I respect the law, and I let them stay. I'm a loving person. I was raised to obey the law, and I will always obey the law. I have never been a felon or be convicted of any crime. I have educated or be a preceptor to a lot of candidates that were not given opportunity to be pharmacy intern, mostly Koreans, and I accept the responsibility because they have language barriers, and I train them, and I help them to understand the process. There are a few of them, most of them are in San Diego at this time. They have a great respect for me, and I have a great respect for them. I'm sorry that some of these errors occur, and I would like for the board to please be humane and recognize that I will not repeat these errors again. I learned my lesson.
Okay, Saul, thank you. Let me just clarify a few things with you, if I may. As Ms. Jarvis mentioned, almost all the allegations that resulted in the revocation of your license and probation on your permit were based upon an inspection by a board inspector in January 2013, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then over a year later, you had a DEA inspection, correct?
Yes.
And how did was the board inspector there at the time?
Yes.
And did the DEA inspections give you any kind of citation or recommendation?
No, the only thing they did, they asked me to improve on my record keeping. There was no report of drug shortages or diversion. They did mention that in their letter, which I believe was sent to the board inspector. And that was a very tragic day for me that I will never forget, because the DEA came with armed guns and revolvers and stuff like that. And but they later found that there was no diversion, there was nothing else going on other than to straighten out my books.
This inspection that occurred a year later after the board inspector in 2013, did the DEA was your DEA certificate ever revoked or put on probation after the inspection of the pharmacy in 2014?
Never.
Okay. You mentioned that you owned a pharmacy and you're also working full-time at a hospital, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, do you have any thoughts about the wisdom of owning a pharmacy where you're also the PIC and simultaneously working as a hospital pharmacist? You think that was wise?
I believe maybe it was a poor judgment, but the community is in a very serious shortage of pharmacists, and still is. And they do pull on us and lean on us very rigorously, and it looks like a bad guy if you don't want to assist a needy hospital or the pharmacist. This is the California desert, proximate to Mexico, and not many people like to live here because of the heat, and mostly the people here are indigents and low income, probably the poorest county in the state of California. So they have difficulty in retaining pharmacists.
All right. So are you testifying you worked at the hospital because they needed you?
That was the only reason, sir.
Was there another hospital that you worked at that you were needed, that you didn't get a salary even?
Yes, that was the default Calexico Hospital.
And when did you
I
work
worked there for a year,
And why did you work
right
there?
around 1992 to 94.
Why did you work there with no pay?
There was nobody to do the job because they don't have funding to pay. It's a community-owned hospital, and a lot of people that attend the hospitals there are indigent, and there's not enough cash flow to pay their healthcare workers. So I volunteered to do the job, and the board appreciated it. The board and the hospital has since been dissolved for bankruptcy purposes.
What was the last
And
part
they
you said?
didn't pay us.
Repeat the last part. I didn't hear it.
The hospital closed. The hospital closed due to bankruptcy.
Oh,
And they never paid the money they owe us.
so it's amazing. After the 2 years, the DEA came to do the inspection. After those 2 years, you still own the pharmacy. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then you voluntarily gave up the pharmacy.
Yes, I voluntarily gave up the pharmacy permit.
And during the 2 years, those 2 years, were you going into the pharmacy to review records and procedures?
Yes. Mostly to pay. I didn't touch drugs or do any dispensing. I just concentrated on the administrative work of paying the bills and paying all the workers. I hired a PIC.
But you were still reviewing records and procedures?
Yes, but not dispensing
Did you have
or dispensing
inspections during
activity.
those 2 years?
I'm going to stop you both. There is a little bit of lag, so we have to be very careful not to speak over one another. So just leave a couple seconds after each question and answer so that the record will be clear.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I'm getting some feedback, especially when Mr. Marks is speaking. Is that happening to others?
Yes.
The audio is reverbing through Mr. Odeley's end.
So this sometimes happens in digital hearings, and it's not ideal. I believe it has to do with internet connection speed and technology being used. So I don't have a great solution for it other than taking an extra second after each question and answer.
Question, does Saul have a mobile phone that he's playing while listening to audio and having the video on? I think maybe there's two devices in his
Yes.
presence.
Yes, I have my cell phone to listen to what is being said.
Ah, okay. So, Mr. Odiale, can you mute one of the microphones that you're not using? And that may stop the echo. Okay.
What is being asked of me, sir?
Oh, that fixed it. Wait, did it?
It seems to be better, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. De La Paz. That was an excellent solution. So please continue, Mr. Marks. Oh.
So during those 2 years that you owned the pharmacy and went over records and procedures in the pharmacy, did they have any board inspections?
Yes.
And what were the results of the board inspections?
So I'm going to stop us again.
They went very well.
I'm going to stop us again because the echo seems to have returned. I don't know if I misunderstood that it had gone away.
So this is the moderator. Mr. Oduali, did you log in separately from your computer and your phone?
No, I'm on the computer.
But you're also using your phone to hear
At
for the
first,
audio?
I couldn't see my picture. At first, I couldn't see my picture on the computer, and I couldn't even find my name. They put me as Son, which is in Spanish Saul. So I imagine maybe there's a misunderstanding there. I do have a computer expert on the side to help me navigate the website if there's a problem.
So my question is, are you logged in once with your computer and then also logged in again with your phone?
I don't believe it. I could ask him. I'm using
So you
my
believe you're only
volume of the.
You believe you're only connected with your phone?
Let me ask the technician that is with me.
Okay, so while we do this, let's go off the record. It is 10:28 a.m. and we will be off the record to try to resolve this technical issue. Mr. Odiale, do you have an idea
Yes.
of how long it'll take for you to get some assistance with this technology?
I cannot hear you at this time.
Okay, that is a problem. So do you have an idea?
I cannot hear you.
Okay, have you muted?
I cannot hear you.
Let's see.
Can you
Okay.
hear me, Saul? Can you hear me, Saul?
Where's the audio? The volume is high.
Mr. Marks, are you able to call your
Is there a
client
problem?
and see if he has possibly muted this meeting?
If I'm reading between the lines, I believe he's
I don't
connected
know
by
where we
his,
have a problem.
I believe he's connected by his computer and he's also
Says
connected by his
connected
phone. He
one.
mentioned using his phone for audio. I'm assuming
Where
his
do we go
computer
from here?
does not have
Speaker is
a
on
speaker,
37%.
which is why he cannot hear us right now. He probably muted his phone.
Okay.
Is my best guess at this moment.
Okay. Well, this presents a challenge.
He can't hear me either, huh?
Okay.
Trying to find out what phone number he's at.
Okay.
Mutes his microphone on his computer and continues to use his mobile phone for audio, that would suffice. I think that's
That will not solve the problem because as long as both connections are open, what comes out of one will feed directly into the other. And that's what's causing the echo.
right.
Mr. Oduali, can we hear you now?
Yeah, I could hear you now.
Okay.
But I had to turn my cell phone back on.
Okay, so you're using the audio for your cell phone. So on your computer screen, do you see a button at the bottom where it says mute or unmute?
Yeah, it's not muted.
Okay, so there's a little arrow next to it that if you click on it, it will pop up a window.
Uh-huh.
And under the speaker settings, okay, so can you switch the speaker setting?
Use system speaker HP audio.
And then also under the
Says
microphone.
disconnected.
It's disconnected. So your speakers are disconnected on that. Okay, so let's see. If you choose switch audio,
You are using computer for audio. It says
So do you see the option to
Says
click switch
disconnected.
audio? And then do you see the call-in option at the bottom?
yes.
If you click view, it tells you what to do to call in. And
Okay.
if you use this method, if you call in following these steps with your phone, it will link your computer and phone together within WebEx and eliminate that echo.
Okay. You want me to call that phone 415?
Correct. Follow that and then enter the information that appears on there as it requests it, and it should link the two together.
Okay. It says 415-655-0001.
Welcome to WebEx. Enter your access code or meeting number followed by pound.
That is 146-176-2047 pound.
Enter your attendee ID or the numeric meeting password followed by pound.
95179 pound.
Okay, so now you will need to unmute yourself from your computer. And then
I
unmute yourself
apologize,
from your phone as
everyone.
well.
Shelley, I'm so sorry. I'm just gonna suggest a 10-minute break so that we all can actually just step away, and then you guys can figure it out while we're just kind of we don't have to just stare in the screen. So let's just take a 10-minute break for the members, and if you guys can keep on trying to figure that out while we're on break. So we'll be back at 10:44 for members.
Okay.
Okay.
So Mr. Oduwale, let's see if, can you hear me now?
Yes, but I'm still.
So I can hear you as well.
Can you hear
I would
me, Saul?
suggest maybe speaking a little closer to your phone's microphone, because that's what's going to be picking up your voice now.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's nice and clear, and I no longer hear the echo.
How about now, Saul? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
but I'm using my cell phone.
Yes,
Yes,
and that's
what you
fine.
should use. That's what you should use.
Okay.
Okay. So the board members have taken a 10-minute break. So you're welcome to also take that break, and I will see everyone back at 10:45 a.m. So in the meantime, you can mute your video and audio if you so choose.
Okay.
Thank you, Warner.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And this is the moderator. Just as a reminder before we begin, I did mute everybody's microphones when we went to break. So before you speak, make sure you unmute.
Thank you, moderator. I see we're still waiting on a couple more members of the board.
The rest of the board members are here. May I break in for a moment to correct something that I said earlier?
Oh, yes. Once we go back on the record, absolutely, Ms. Jarvis.
Thank you.
On my screen, it looks like we are missing Mr. Sanchez. Is there anyone else that I'm missing?
I'm back on board.
Okay. That's you, Mr. Sanchez?
Yes, this one looks.
Okay. Thank you. All right. President O, are we ready to begin again?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. It is 10:48 a.m. and we are back on the record. We took a short break and resolved some technical issues. Before we recommence Mr. Odiale's testimony, Ms. Jarvis, you wanted to make a correction on the record?
Yes, Your Honor. Earlier, when I was presenting the petition packet, I commented that only 7 of petitioners' letters of recommendation were able to be verified. That was an error due to the fact that we held that petition hearing last month, and then now this month, the other 4 petition letters were able to be verified. So all 11 of the recommendation letters from 2020 and newer have been verified, and that includes 2 additional licensees. So petitioner has met that requirement of having at least 2 licensees write recommendation letters. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jarvis. Okay, Mr. Marks, are you ready to question your client some more? Do you remember the last question that you asked him? You're on mute, Mr. Marks. Mr. Marks, if you could please unmute. Oh, there we go.
Okay. Saul, are you there?
I am here.
Oh, okay. When we broke, you were talking about the fact, or we were talking about the fact that you still, after your license was revoked, you still owned the pharmacy for 2 years till you gave it up. And you were going in periodically to review records and procedures, correct?
Correct.
And during those 2 years, did you have board inspections?
Yes.
And what were the outcomes of those board inspections?
I believe they were good.
You didn't receive any citations or anything like that?
During the 2 years post probation?
Yes. In other words,
the PIC stated that there were inspections, but he didn't tell me of any violations.
so you didn't receive any notice either through directly or through the PIC that you had been found to have any violations, correct?
there were violations that came in that were ongoing at the time, and the pharmacy could not function without third-party licenses and stuff like that. So I told them we need to shut it down. So we submitted our license.
I'm not talking about the time you shut it down. I'm talking about the period between your license that was revoked and your pharmacy that was placed on probation. During those 2-year
I
periods.
sincerely apologize. I believe we lost one of the members, Nicole. So moderator, if you could try to bring her back up, or
Okay.
if she is not connected. I am so sorry.
Let's go off the record. It is 10:52 and we are off the record, just so we won't be deliberating while Dr. Tebow is gone.
She has returned. I've brought her back in.
Thank
Hi,
you.
yes, sorry. I could hear you the whole time. I just lost video and had to restart. So I didn't miss anything. You just couldn't see me. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. It is 10:52 and we are back on the record. Please continue, Mr. Marks.
So during the 2-year period that you had the pharmacy but did not have a license, you were going in and reviewing records and procedures, and there were inspections, as you mentioned, by the board inspectors. Are you aware of any citations or corrections that were issued by the pharmacy board inspector during those 2 years?
No.
Okay. And then in 2017, you closed the pharmacy. And what has been your means of support?
I operated my business, my other businesses, such as the rentals that I mentioned, and such as maybe providing postal services to the community, because I do own a postal mailbox and I do own a income tax services and immigration counseling for people that need direction as to how to fill out their forms. But I hire people to do that job.
So you have rentals and you have a tax
Postal
business?
service. Yes.
Okay, don't talk over me because it'll mess up the record.
Okay.
Okay. So is this business successful? The businesses that you have?
Yes.
Okay. So if your business is successful, why do you want to go back in a pharmacy?
Pharmacy is my passion, and that is what I was educated for. And I believe in community service as a pharmacist. And I would like to go back and be able to proudly use my license, which I earned in a very, very hard way. And I wouldn't want to go down in my grave using my license that I paid dearly for.
Okay. All right, so you mentioned you worked at a hospital for free for a year. You've talked about that, correct?
Yes.
That was Calexico Hospital?
Yes.
Were there other pharmacists that were working there before it ran into financial problems?
Yes.
What happened to them? Did they stay and work for free?
They left.
They left and you were the only one who stayed there and worked for free?
Yes.
And how long was that for?
About a year and a half.
Okay. You mentioned, and I think it was in one of the letters that you submitted, that you're involved with a Little League in your community. Is that accurate?
Very much so. And I am still.
And what do you do with them?
I buy them jerseys, uniform, provide them water, and some other resources that they ask for in terms of monetary contribution that they use for other things that I don't know.
Another letter, and as well as you, mentioned that you provide scholarship money to students. Can you explain that a little better, a little bit more elaborately?
There are some high school students or junior high school students that were not of good characters and they were not allowed to mix with regular groups. So instead of taking them to the club, they have to go to alternative school. And some of their parents don't have money, and in some of those alternative schools, still they don't take them. So I reach out to the Seventh-day Adventists to allow them to go there since it's a private school, and I pay for their education, usually just about $400 a month to have them there. And once they are able to prove themselves in that church school, they are allowed to go back to the regular school.
And you're doing that right now?
Not anymore, because nobody has approached me for any of that kind of stuff.
Oh, you did that for a while.
Yes.
Okay. And there's a letter from a pastor mentioning, and you mentioned church donations. What do you do in regard to donations to the church?
I mostly send money to the congregation, especially in Africa, for missionary work. And they have since built a teaching hospital there. And they are improving the society there. And it's called Babcock University. And I look it up on the web. It's quite different from when I went there in 1973. It's improved a lot.
Did you contribute to a building down there or something like that?
Yes, they wanted to build primary and secondary school so that they could have a direct entry of students into the university programs.
And what did you do in regard?
I have to do it through the church.
I just want to take a moment and just remind Mr. Marks and Mr. Odiale that we do need to take that brief pause between each question and answer so that we're not speaking over each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. What contributions did you make monetarily to the schools?
I write them checks and I send them money. The banking system was not as good as this then. I give checks to the church pastors that speak for them. When I finished pharmacy school, I donated all my textbooks from my baccalaureate degree to the pharmacy degree. I sent them to their school or their library. and they still remain there up to today.
All right, and in addition to what you've already mentioned, so, and in light of the law's emphasis on rehabilitation and public protection, what assurances can you give the board members that you will know there will be no violations of pharmacy law if your license is restored? Tell the board how you feel about that.
I will comply with the law. I will not make mistakes. I will not walk gray lines. And I will make sure that I uphold the law. I took a pharmacist oath, which is very strong in my mind, and I
Mr. Odiale?
keep to that.
I don't know if it was just my connection, but some of your answer got a little bit garbled. So if you could please repeat it.
I said I will comply with the law, and I will follow the law as required, and I will not walk gray lines, meaning that if I'm unsure of something, I just don't do it. And I ask for clarifications, and there is access to call the board or board inspectors for questions. And I took an oath as a pharmacist, and I mean that oath when I took that oath. And I'm a good pharmacist. I'm a good person. I have rehabilitated myself. I have re-educated myself, and I will continue to do that. And I think that it was the purpose of the continuing education programs, which did not exist before. So, and I have been doing that even while I'm not licensed. So I will be a good pharmacist, and I will not let the pharmacy board down if I was given the opportunity to have my license reinstated.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
I can't hear you.
I apologize. I'm muted. President O, would you like the board members to begin their questioning first, or would you like Ms. Jarvis to go first?
I would have Ms. Jarvis go first. I would have Ms. Jarvis go first, and then board members. And for board members, Your Honor, would you like me to call their name, or would you like to call their name?
If you
Whatever
wouldn't
your
mind,
preference.
if you wouldn't mind calling their name, President O, I think that would go a little bit smoother.
Okay, that would be great. All righty, go.
Thank you.
I will turn it back to you.
Thank you. Ms. Jarvis, if you would please present your questions.
Dr. Odiale, you were licensed in Arizona and Illinois as well as California, correct?
Correct.
And you gave up those licenses fairly recently, or when you got revoked here in California. Is that right?
That is correct. I did not renew my license over in Illinois and Arizona.
Why not?
Because there's a law that says that a violation in one state automatically transfers to the other states, and I cannot have multiple litigations going in several states that I don't even live in. So in order not to complicate matters, I just did not renew my license.
Do you understand the danger to the public that was involved with your misconduct that led to the revocation of your license?
Yes, and I do apologize for that.
Well, can you expound on that a little bit? What dangers do you know of that you caused by your misconduct?
I do not know of any danger, but I know of misconduct.
Well, do you think that you could have caused patient harm by providing expired oxytocin to patients?
I know for sure that I couldn't have caused any danger by that because I canceled and reviewed the literature on that immediately before dispensing, and I canceled the nurse and that it needs to be used, and all those products were expired same day. It's not like when I extended it, I only extended it for the purpose of not scaring them. It was expired the same day. It was just that I worked night shift and it was emergency, and the nurses from the OB department and gynecology said they don't have Pitocin drip and they need it start. And I told them I only have one that is expiring today. And they said, well, we need to use something. I told them, you don't have any on your floor? They said, no, there's none in the pictures. So I immediately rushed over there and showed them it's expiring today. You have to use it today. And they used all the 5 or 6 bags that I gave them that same night. I left the hospital at about 2 a.m.
But you extended this beyond use date by several days, correct?
Only by 2 days.
But do you understand the potential patient harm in doing that, in extending a beyond use date and providing a drug that could be expired before it's used?
The review of the literature shows that there were not particulate matters, even though I didn't test them for bacteriological contents, but I did read the literature. If there is any loss of potency, and advise them they titrate oxytocin drip based on patient's response.
So you're justifying your specific actions, Dr. Odiali.
No.
But what about more in general? In general, do you understand the potential patient harm with providing an expired drug to a patient?
I'm going to take a second and just remind everyone we do need to take a pause between questions and answers so we're not speaking at the same time. Thank you. You may proceed, Mr. Odiali.
Yes, I realize the potential danger.
Now, do you understand the potential danger of dispensing prescriptions for controlled substances that are not on the appropriate controlled substance prescription form?
Yes.
And what is the potential harm to patients by doing so?
Well, a patient could inadvertently be given the wrong drug or be labeled with the wrong doctor.
Are you aware of the trends of controlled substance and particularly opioid diversion in your area of the state of California?
Yes.
So are you aware that on a non-controlled substance prescription form, if there's a controlled substance written on it, there's a potential that that prescription is a fake prescription?
Correct.
Now, the decision of the board, which was after all of these hearings that you had, indicated that you falsified documents and submitted them to the board to cover up your errors and violations. Now, the judge did not find your explanations at the hearing as to these documents to be credible. So why did you submit these documents to the board, and do you understand the danger to the public in doing so?
I'll defer to the council for that.
Yeah, I think, if I may, Your Honor, we're relitigating the case, and I don't want to get into that. I mean, there was pros and cons on that, and there was testimony on both sides, and the judge went one side and not the other side. But I think in my redirect examination, we're relitigating the underlying case, which Your Honor explained that I shouldn't do that, and now we're doing it.
So, Mr. Marks, I perceive the question as asking his understanding of the findings of the prior case rather than the factual basis within them. Ms. Jarvis, if you could rephrase the question, perhaps we would be able to get to a better resolution.
And you're correct, Your Honor. What I'm trying to get at, Dr. Odiali, is do you understand what was found by the judge, and do you understand the danger to the public in submitting documents that are not consistent?
I do understand.
And can you explain what you think the danger to the public is in submitting inconsistent documents to the board?
I cannot recall which specific document.
Just in general, Saul.
Oh, okay. I understand the danger involved in that, and I explained that it could easily be misunderstood if you were to put the wrong doctor or the wrong patient on the label and give the wrong drug to the wrong patient from a different doctor.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, so now we move to the board. So President O, if you have any questions, and if you wouldn't mind going through the rest of the board to see if they have questions as well.
I am going to go down the list, and I will go last. Jake, any comments or questions for Mr. Odiali?
Good morning, Mr. Odiali.
Good morning, sir.
You have done a lot of continuing education and you have some amazing recommendation letters, and the volunteer work you have done. It's pretty commendable. One of the questions I had was you had mentioned that the DEA had visited your pharmacy along with Board of Pharmacy and that they did not find anything. And from what I'm reading, that there were prescriptions that were not written on state issued controlled substance forms. And there was, one second, oral prescriptions that were taken down with no record of who called those in. The DEA did not see that as an issue.
The prescriptions that we are talking about were reduced to writing on another pad. They were faxed in prescription from the doctor from across the street, and they were verified. It is usually a visiting doctor that comes from Santa Maria to Calexico, and I call for verification of each of them from that doctor. In fact, there's a letter from that doctor to that effect.
Okay. And the other question I
know
had
if
was, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Okay. The other question I had was that the oxytocin that was dispensed in middle of the night, the day was expiring. You believe that giving proper consultation and explanation to the nurses that it does not really cause any danger to any patient that would be administered that product. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. That's all I
I
had.
did
Thank you.
advise them to titrate.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. Thank you, Jake. And Cheryl, any questions for Mr. Odiale?
Hello, I just want to thank you again for coming before us, and I appreciate all that you've done and that you're doing for the community, for the church, and the fact that your license was revoked in 2015. I appreciate that you're coming back to try and get your license back. I do have one question about the oxytocin. I just want to be clear about the fact that you said that you told the nurse that this was a medication that she could use only that day, because of the fact that this was an emergency situation. And so, or am I to understand that the reason why you did give this medication to them was because it was an emergency situation where the patient was to be using it that night, that day, so that it was a drug that could be used that day, just not 2 days later?
Correct.
Thank you.
They did use them.
Okay.
None was used the second day.
Okay, it was used on that day under that emergency situation.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have no further.
Thank you, Cheryl. Jose, any questions for Mr. Odiale?
No question, just, I do appreciate Saul's comments and effort he has demonstrated since his license was revoked. I think that's just the only comment I have for this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Shirley, any comments and questions for Mr. Odiale?
No comments, just thank you, Dr. Odiale, for all of your community service and your testimony today.
Thank you, Shirley. And Ricardo, any questions for Mr. Odiale?
Yes, Dr. Odiale, I just want to say I commend you for all the work you've done with the church and also getting yourself back to this point where you could apply for reinstatement. I do recall your first time you came before us here, and I thought all this was settled, but we're here hashing this out. And I just want to say thank you. It takes a lot of courage to come up here and talk to us, and just want to say thank you. That's all.
The opportunity.
Thank you, Ricardo. And Nicole, any questions or comments for Mr. Odiale?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Debbie Veal, any questions or comments for Mr. Odiale?
To ask a couple, Dr. Odiale, as the others have said, thank you for appearing here. I know it's not easy because you have all of us asking questions and looking, in detail at what has happened, and also you have, done a lot of great volunteer work and help with people less fortunate. So I'm all about rehabilitation, and I think you are too, because of a couple of statements you said. One is that you have learned from your errors, and going through the, you know, why you have been disciplined in the past. Back in 2006, I think, Ms. Jarvis said, you know, it's sloppy operations and mishandling of controlled drugs. And then with your own pharmacy, it seems like that kind of came up again. It was, you know, it's basically just a sloppy operation with, you know, the paperwork, not having the controlled substances in order. So when you say you've learned from your errors, how have you rehabilitated yourself from the sloppy operations?
There has been significant improvement in the technology of pharmacy dispensing. And those technologies will enhance me to prevent errors. And now we have barcode system that we can use, even when it's the right drug, but it's not the right NDC, we correct the NDC. So, and we get birth dates, addresses on all patients as required by law, even though the doctors don't fill it in. Being that we're in a remote location, a lot of patients here do go to San Diego, Los Angeles, Riverside, Palm Springs for specialist visit. And we verify all those prescriptions. And I'm thankful that the board has finally gotten it approved for doctors to comply to the new controlled substances form, because a lot of them didn't use that. And it was a struggle, and I knew that it was extended another year due to the fight the doctor were bringing on against, or maybe dissensions, I should say. And now they have to do what they must do. Otherwise, their prescription don't get filled. I learned those errors. And I'm thankful that the Board of Pharmacy is able to assist us pharmacists to sanction some doctors, because I do read, I'm subscribed to the pharmacy website. I do get a list of those doctors that are not allowed to prescribe controlled substances. And the cures programs also has been improved. So we could see people that are multi-pharmacy shopping and multi-doctor shopping. And there are a lot of tools now available to us that were not available before. And I guarantee you that I will not disappoint you, and I have rehabilitated myself by following all the improvements that the pharmacy board has put in place and disciplined doctors, whereas before those didn't happen. They refer those cases to the Board of Medicine. But that will help us a great deal. I will guarantee you that those errors will not reoccur. Neither will any type of errors. I'll guard against that. I will not, at this age, work multiple locations, same days, same time, and it's just unfortunate that I made all these errors, and I regretted it. And I'm asking for leniency.
Thank you for your answer. So, and I think you actually said part of your rehabilitation when you were speaking earlier was taking CE. So when you selected the CE that you took, did you, I know sometimes we just take CE, but did you also look and try to find articles and CE that would benefit you and maybe some of these things had happened to you?
Yes, one of them is drug utilization review, which did not exist before, whereas and another one is taking pharmacy law, continuing pharmacy law education. I've done that every year, and even every month. I follow the trends in pharmacy law, especially all these opiate problems. I cannot say any more than to thank the Board of Pharmacy to have put all these safeguards for us and back us up. And if any doctor give us problems, we need to call the Board of Pharmacy, because sometimes they could be intimidating and be very belligerent.
Yeah, very true. I want to go back and just touch on what Dr. Butler had said earlier about the oxytocin. I understand that you provided that to the patient in an emergency situation, but I just want to clarify, at the time that it was going to be administered to the patient, it was 1 day expired. Is that correct?
Was expired on that day.
Okay. So the day that it was being used was the last day of
Yes.
that it was good?
Yes.
So actually, you're saying it actually was not expired?
It was not expired at the time of dispensing.
Oh, but it was close to midnight, and so therefore, if they used it after midnight, it would be expired.
Correct.
I got it. Okay, and it sounded like you talked to the nurses and that they were aware of that situation.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have one more question, and that is normally when someone has not been actively participating in pharmacy for a number of years, and I believe for you it's going to probably be about 5 or more, we do normally have you take the NAPLEX again, as well as our law exam, the CPJE, as we fondly call it. Do you have any concerns with taking those exams?
I'm not familiar with CPJE, but I'm familiar with the NAPLEX. I think CPJE is for foreign trained graduates.
No, CPJE, it's just the acronym for the California law exam.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I misunderstand.
You don't have to know every acronym out there, but would you feel you would be agreeable if we would to require that you pass the NAPLEX and the California law exam before we would reinstate your license?
Yes.
Okay.
But I have a question.
Once again, sir, thank you very much for being here today. I appreciate your answers and the activity that the positive activity in your community, because you are in a very tough community and one where we need pharmacists. So it's I'm glad that you've made those efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. Jason, any questions or comments?
Thank you. Hi, Dr. Odoyale. First, I want to say thank you so much for dedicating your career to a community that certainly needed pharmacists, and you were there to help them out. I think as far as going forward, it's important to be rehabilitated, that that people acknowledge that mistakes were made, and you've committed to staying out of any gray zone.
Yes, I will not walk the gray line.
Okay, and so would it be, is it accurate to say that what has brought you here, that that the charges, they were all in that gray zone and you would not do that again?
Yes, I will not do that again.
Okay, thank you. That's my only question. Thank you again, doctor, for all of your service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Maria Serpa?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Odayale, I have several questions. I'm going to ask all my questions really about the use of oxytocin in acute care and not related to the other issues that were being discussed today. That's because I work in acute care and understand the issues of urgency and the challenges of patient care that can occur. My concern really has nothing to do with the dispensing of an expired product. So that's kind of off the table on kind of the discussion, the questions I ask, and not about the patients who may have received expired product. Or really, my questions are focused on your thought processes, how you evaluated and came to your decisions, how you documented and notified people, and what was your plan going forward after the quote unquote emergency need at that point. So my first question is, did you notify the doctor that you were going to be dispensing a potentially expired product?
The doctor was not on premises. I told the attending nurse to notify the doctor.
So it's a hospital policy that the pharmacist would notify the doctor, and you did not do that.
Yes, because I couldn't reach the doctor.
Oh, so if you needed an emergency order for a new drug, is there a way to reach doctors at night?
There are protocols that we follow.
So there are no new drugs ordered at night at their hospital, except via
No.
protocol?
Yes.
Okay. So then the hospital's policy that was put into the record is not accurate. There'd be no way for you to notify the doctor per your hospital policy.
If the doctor doesn't answer, and I repeat the call, and it's the nurse that actually has more direct contact to call the doctors in. The doctors that were supposed to be attending the patients were not even there.
I see. So you didn't try to call. You didn't try to call.
Yes.
So
No, I called the doctor, but no answer.
okay, that's new information. So you did call the doctor and there was no answer.
No.
Okay. So that's different than what was in the record. I apologize for that. What I saw from the record was that the doctor was not called. That answers my first question. My second question is, you made the decision to dispense a questionable product. How did you document that besides your verbal discussion with the nurse? How did you document that?
There's a log in the pharmacy. Normally, all the products such as this were in the Pyxis, but the Pyxis has 0. And the nurse panicked. So I went back to the pharmacy and I looked on the shelf because we buy pre-mixed products. And there was no oxytocin vials available for me to reconstitute my own. And I did document and loaded it into the Pyxis so they know how many I put there. By the next morning, the Pyxis had gone to 0 again. And that was how they found out that the Pyxis record shows dispensing of oxytocin was not a cover-up at all.
Mm-hmm. Maybe let me be more clear, because I do work in a hospital, so I just wanted to know very specifically, how did you document that you were dispensing expired products so that the next morning the pharmacy was completely aware and could fix the problem?
I wrote a note.
Okay.
And there's a chart where, but since I didn't prepare the product itself, I just wrote a note to the PIC.
So you did have a process there so that the next morning someone would follow up?
Yes.
Okay, that helps to understand that part of it. My next part was about looking at the testimony that was provided to the judge in the previous hearing. And there were several witnesses from the hospital. I think there were 3 witnesses, and they brought hospital records that showed that there was multi-dose oxytocin in the pharmacy single dose vials on the floor also that could be used to admix new products so that you would not have to dispense expired product. Did you look for those multi-dose vials and single dose vials first?
Yes, it's a two-level hospital, and I'm the only pharmacist on duty. I don't even have any assistant. So they said they don't have any. I went to surgery, I didn't see any there. And I asked her, did you look in your drawers? She said, I couldn't find it. And I said, okay, in the meantime, have this while I look. And I couldn't find it. There are certain times, maybe something's somewhere and you couldn't find it and it's there, but I couldn't find it. I did my best, and I couldn't continue to search while the patient is in labor and hurting. So I put a bandage on the problem to not be bleeding. And the hospital also frowned on us staying over time. And I was to have left the hospital at 11 or 12. And I looked, I couldn't find it. I didn't want to predispose them to not having anything to use at all. I couldn't find it.
Okay, I understand you couldn't find it, but the 3 employees from your hospital, pharmacy employees, and the hospital records show that there was drug in the pharmacy and on the labor floor that could have been used. But I understand you couldn't find that. That's correct?
Yes, neither could the nurse find it. That is why she made the call, because they could mix their own on emergency basis.
And so my other question, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's fine.
So my other question was, those 3 pharmacy witnesses and the pharmacy records from Pyxis show that there were 2 bags of good dating on the labor floor at this time. So they were not at 0. So how do you explain that there was 2 bags on the floor, but you're telling us that there was 0?
I think we had the Pyxis record that shows there was 0, a printed copy.
So, okay, maybe that somebody can look that up, because in the record that was received to us, the witnesses testified that there were 2, and the judge stated the hospital records show that there were 2. So it's a little confusing for me.
It's confusing for me too.
Okay.
The Pyxis could say that it's there, but it's not there, because somebody opens the Pyxis, instead of taking 1, it takes 2. The Pyxis doesn't know that.
Okay. Well, and in those
we're
witness
talking
statements,
about physically looking at what is there and what is not there. The record may say something, but the physical count says something different. And I think
understand.
that's what happened in this case.
I understand your comments.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to justify my position. I beg for leniency. The evidence was not in my favor, but the Pyxis inaccuracy, we all know that.
And just remind us that we do need to speak one at a time, and also that we're not here to relitigate any of the facts underlying the revocation. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. My questions are basically about my overall final question, because the information in the information that we read from the previous case is there, but my information really, my questions are leading more towards the things that we're hearing today, and let me just jump to my last question then, perhaps, rather than go through some of the details, because the bigger question is not on the details of, but I wanted to really understand the facts in your responses to the judge and to the investigators in the past, and how that affects you now. Because the biggest issue to me is about rehabilitation, which other board members have stated. And so it's really about moving forward. What have you learned about the process and what you did, and what would you do differently? Because what I'm hearing is justification, perhaps, and I just really want to know, what would you do differently?
Well, there was no hospital to borrow from, but If I didn't dispense it, I will be written up. If I did dispense it, I will be written up. So I'd rather not have a patient die. And there was shortage of oxytocin, and if they put it where it is supposed to be, everybody will find it. But hindsight is 2020. I apologize for that. I'm very sorry. I don't believe the nurse will be bothering me for something that they don't need to bother me for.
Mhm.
There are good people there.
Thank you. That was really where I'm trying to get to is what you would do differently so that we wouldn't be in the same situation in the future. So I appreciate your honest answers. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Your Honor, I actually don't have any questions for Mr. Odiale, so back to you.
Thank you. So at this time, Mr. Marks, would you like to do some redirect with your client?
No, Your Honor.
No, you're done?
I'm done except for some argument.
Okay. All right. So are we ready for closing remarks then?
Yes.
Okay. So let's have the petitioner go first. So Mr. Marks.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you. Thank you, board members. I think we can all agree that the purpose of disciplinary action is to protect the public. Many of the board members have alluded to that. But I sincerely believe that Saul does not pose a risk to the public. He made mistakes by perhaps by trying to own a pharmacy for the first time and simultaneously working as a hospital pharmacist. It was two jobs at the same time, and it's likely too overwhelming. And I think when we're talking about the oxytocin, a lot of that may have to do with working all day at the pharmacy and then going to work all night at the hospital. As you mentioned, we're talking about something that happened at 11 o'clock at night. But he's learned from that, and that's not going to happen again. He suffered due to his mistakes. It's clear from his testimony. And he has sincerely learned from them, and that is clear from his testimony. Obviously, if he's reinstated, he won't own another pharmacy. He's learned from that. And as we know from these proceedings, he will be on probation. He will likely be ordered to take the NAPLEX and the jurisprudence exam. We know that he will be under supervision of a pharmacist in charge of the pharmacy because he will not be a PIC. We know that he will be monitored by board inspectors. And he used to work in prison. If he goes back there, he's going to be monitored by facility supervisors. All I can say really is that Saul has gained extensive knowledge of pharmacy in more than 25 years, and it would be a shame to lose that knowledge. He's got an outstanding reputation as a philanthropist.
Your Honor, and Mr. Marks, I apologize for butting in, but it appears that our board president has dropped off.
President O, are you there? I've seen your video go blank several times.
I'm here. Yeah, it's just the technology. I'm still here.
Okay.
This is
Sure.
This is the moderator. We are
Sorry about
having some bandwidth issues on the video, so some may be going in and out.
Okay. So let's go off the record for a second. So President O, I'm going to be viewing your presence in the participant list as a means by which to see that you are present. Is that accurate? Because I've seen that your video goes to low bandwidth several times.
Yes, you may, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine by me. I do want to make sure that we have everyone present, and I've just found that the participant list is a good means by which to do so because it conveys whether there's audio, even if the video goes down for a second. Okay. All right, with that, let's go back on the record. It is 11:46 and we're back on the record. Mr. Marks, if you don't mind resuming.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think I was mentioning Saul has an outstanding reputation as a philanthropist, donor of money, material. He gives time to his community, as noted by many of the character letters. And I think his good character supports the fact that he can be an asset wherever he works, community pharmacy, correctional facilities, VA, or underprivileged areas such as Calexico, where pharmacists are really needed. It's not an area where a lot of pharmacists want to go to begin their career or continue their career. Truly, a man who volunteers his time and pharmacy expertise at a hospital without pay for a year and a half, simply because the hospital and community needed him there, undeniably wants to use his professional knowledge and experience for the good of the public. And as the supporting letters reflect, he has earned high praise and trust from respected members in his community and fellow pharmacists. I believe Saul has earned another chance as a pharmacist. I urge the board to give him that chance and reinstate his license. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Ms. Jarvis, if you'd like to give some closing remarks.
It has been 6 years since petitioner has held a license. He appears here to be remorseful. However, he is still unwilling to fully accept responsibility. He wants to continue to justify his conduct and minimize the potential harm to the public. And as we've heard here today through these questions, he does not really understand the harm to the public, and he continues to maintain his stories that the judge already found were not credible. The hospital records completely discount just about everything Dr. Odiale said here today. So although petitioner may be safe to practice pharmacy with an extensive probation term, I cannot recommend it. So I leave that determination up to the expertise of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jarvis. Is there anything else before we close the record on this petition?
Not for me, Your Honor.
I have something to say.
Mr. Odiale, if you would, we generally have individuals that are represented by counsel argue through their counsel. So we could take a recess and you could speak with Mr. Marks. And would that be acceptable to you?
If Mr. Marks is willing to do so.
Mr. Marks?
I kind of have a feeling that Mr. Odiale wants to explain some more about this issue that's been brought up about the oxytocin. I think without taking a break, I can just say that there were extenuating circumstances, as he has alluded to. This woman was in labor. Oxytocin can be titrated. As a matter of fact, what hasn't been brought up is we had a very responsible and expert along the field with oxytocin and administering the drug who said there was nothing wrong with titrating that drug and said that what he did was, under the circumstances, appropriate. Now, these hearings, and I've been involved in 50 years of them, sometimes the judge gets it right, sometimes the judge gets it wrong. It's got to go one way or the other. It didn't go our way. But there was I can say there was being there and trying the case, examining that expert. I can honestly say that it's a close question, and it was an emergency situation. And Mr. Odiale could not, if he could have found the oxytocin, he would have used it. He used his best judgment late at night. There was no problem. Nothing ever came of, except for the use of the oxytocin made the delivery smoother, and the baby was born fine. Nothing ever happened. It's a one-time thing in a career of 30 years. And I think that's what Mr. Odiali really wants to say, because he really hasn't had a chance to give his side of the story. But the only thing I really want to emphasize is the circumstances there that probably would never happen again, and the fact that we had a very qualified expert support what he did. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Mr. Odiali, does your counsel's response satisfy your desire to speak, or would you like to speak with him off the record?
I'm satisfied with his response, and I just thank the board for hearing me.
Thank you. All right. So if there is nothing further, that concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The case is submitted and the record is closed. We are off the record in this matter and will proceed to the next petition. I see that it is close to lunch.
Yeah, Your Honor, I'm sorry. I didn't foresee the first one taking longer than I anticipated due to the technological problems. If you are okay, it probably is best that we take a lunch break now, and we will resume in an hour at 12:52, if that is okay with you and everyone else.
That's fine with me, President O. So we will be off. Oh, sorry, you may continue.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, one thing I wanted to say, if I could request with our moderator, could during the hopefully lunch break, please check with our petitioner and their attorney so that we don't come across that during the hearing. If you could please work with them to get that during our break. I think that would be really great. Back to you.
Petitioner Duru, if you can please stay connected. And once we go into break, I will pull you up as a panelist, and we will get your microphone and your camera checked before the two of us break for lunch.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll see you at 12:52.